Hi, I'm Freddie Glasser at the Pennsylvania Academy of Family Physicians. This is a brief overview of Turning Technology's audience response system that we use for polling audiences during various live CME and live events. To install the software on your computer, go to your browser and type in Turning Technologies. You'll select Audience Response Systems, Turning Technologies. It's turningtechnologies.com. To download the products, select Downloads. Under polling software, select Turning Point, and then the PC install version. We do not support Mac Office 2004 at this time. After selecting PC install version, enter various demographic information, provide a valid email address. Turning Technologies will email you the download information and will enable you to install the software. Also available on the website under support, product training, online tutorials are available that will let you see various videos for for accomplishing various things within the soft system. Once it's installed, you'll find Turning Point under All Programs, Turning Technologies, Turning Point 2008, and then Turning Point 2008 is the program icon. You can drag and drop it out on your desktop at this point, or you can right-click on it and pin it to the Start menu or pin it to the taskbar, so it's easy to get to. I just started Turning Point, and one very important thing to point out is that Turning Point is simply an add-in to PowerPoint. We are truly running PowerPoint at this time. There's just an add-in that is enabled called Turning Point 2008. As you can see, PowerPoint, all the various features we can do with PowerPoint are available, but there's a different tab here called Turning Point 2008. It's from within this tab right here that we'll add and edit question slides as we go through. It's also very important to point out that there is not a separate presentation and a separate questions. It's not ARS questions are in one slide deck and PowerPoint presentation is in another. They are embedded together all in one PowerPoint presentation. You may be used to in the past going to various events where someone in the back of the room was kind of in charge with bringing up an ARS question, and the speaker would have to interface with them to have that happen. In this case, the speaker or you are completely in control of the entire presentation from beginning to end, including all ARS questions. It is very easy to use, fortunately. One of the things to also make sure is at the events itself, the PAFP will be supporting you. It's very important that the presentation run under Turning Point. If this tab is missing, the question slides will appear, but they won't function. They'll just be a slide that just appears, and they will not be able to poll the audience or anything like that. And you'll always know you're in Turning Point because this tab is available. When you first install Turning Point, we recommend that you go over to the settings panel over here on the right. If this settings panel is not there, under Tools, you can enable Settings pane. The gear here is called Settings. Select that, and a fairly busy screen comes up. Now, making sure presentation is selected, we want to go select All Settings, and these are all the default settings for the various question slides. We recommend going to the response reminder settings, and for answer now, select left explosion. You'll see what this means in a minute. The answer now text is answer now. Auto advance, leave as false. Countdown, make sure it's set to true, and countdown seconds we recommend 4. Now, countdown seconds are sometimes as confusing. It is not how long the audience has to answer the question. Polling will begin as soon as a question appears. The countdown timer is simply a visual cue that polling is about to close, and we'll go through this as part of the demo. And the response counter is none. Response counter format is count. That's all fine. And you can say done. And now your presentation is set up. It's now ready to begin the development of the actual presentation. So we'll just do a very simple one. Example presentation. This would be some sort of instructional points. And you see I'm just developing a PowerPoint presentation. Point 1, point 2, and so forth. Now when we're ready to actually create a question, say we want to insert a question right here within the presentation, from the Turning Point 2008 tab, there's an insert slide. Now there's generally three that we use predominantly, is vertical and horizontal. Those are multiple choice questions. And you'll see what those graphs mean here in a second. The other one that sometimes we use is true or false. Let's select vertical slide for now. So Turning Point is now going to create an ARS question slide. And it comes up with a format already set and ready to go. Here's our answer now with the left bevel like we set in our settings. There's the countdown timer already added. And now we can go up here and enter our question text. And that's it. The question is now created. It's that simple. Now, one of the things we can do is we can say, okay, we want to say number 2 is the correct answer. Come over here to answer values, select number 2, and say that is correct. So there's our correct answer. Now, if we want to, we can show the audience what the correct answer is after polling closes by saying insert object, correct answer indicator, and we can choose any one of these icons. Usually use a check mark or smiley face. And now that will appear. Now just to walk through this to see how easy it is to actually use at this point. To do a test, we'll go up to response devices here in the middle. That's telling Turning Point where to get the actual responses. Since you'll be developing this at home or in your office, you won't have access to the clickers. So come down and select simulated data. Okay, what simulated data says to Turning Point is create the responses as if someone had entered them. So we'll go to PowerPoint's slideshow. We'll say from beginning. We're now giving our presentation. I press slide advance. My next slide comes up. I press slide advance again, and polling now opens. This is our question slide. We know that because up here in the corner it says polling is open. This is the count of responses. Now, since it's simulated, it immediately supplied 30 responses. When you're actually doing your presentation and people press the clickers, that will tick up. It'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and it'll start to slow down when most of the responses are in. When you're ready to close the polling, after you've read the question and the answers and you see the responses are slowing down, you press the slide advance button, which on the keyboard is just the right arrow. The countdown timer began, counted down from 4 seconds, and polling closed. Now, let me re-stress, the countdown timer is not how long they have to answer the question. The countdown timer is a visual cue reminding the audience that polling is about to close. If you accidentally hit that the slide advance, as soon as the question appears, the countdown timer will count down and they will only have 4 seconds. So it's kind of important to test your presentation before the actual day of the presentation, just to be familiar with how Turning Point is going to work. Now, I pressing slide advance again. I see the results. Now this is those vertical bars. We selected vertical bars for this, and it's saying 40% answered number 2, 17% answered number 1, 33 number 3, and 10% number 4. Slide advance again. Correct answer indicator goes up, and slide advance again would take us to the next slide, or in this case it just ends because that was our last slide. Now, realizing that we're dealing with PowerPoint and Microsoft, we can look at the various things we can do to this slide. This is a text box up here. If your question is very long, the default font size will probably be too big and it'll take up the entire screen. Using PowerPoint, you can go to Home and you can reset the font size to something smaller so it doesn't take up as much room. Same thing is true with the answers. We can set those to be smaller. This is a graphical representation, this text box here, and it can be resized. This is an object that can be deleted. Okay, now we've lost our visual cue, but we can put another visual cue in by going back to Turning Point 2008 and under Insert Object, Charts. Now let's look at what horizontal looks like. I'm going to put a horizontal on it. And you can see what it's done is instead of a vertical representation of the answers, it's going to be a horizontal. And you can move this around to make it look a little better. You can even resize it. Now, it's important to realize that sometimes if you have questions where the answers vary in length, like one of them might be 2 or 3 sentences, one of them might be 1 word, these bars may not line up directly over top of the answers like you'd want. Now, just to show this, Now, to retest the presentation, this is also very important. To retest the presentation, watch what happens. We'll go to slideshow from current slide. I'll move on to the turning point slide, and you'll notice the polling doesn't open. Polling remains closed. Responses are still set at 30. The reason why that has happened is because Turning Point recognizes that there are questions, there are answers to this slide. One of the questions that comes up is, can you go back to a question slide? The answer is maybe. You can go back to a question slide if and only if there are no responses to it. If there are responses, Turning Point will keep it closed. It won't allow the presentation, the slide to be asked again. There are ways to reset that, but that's kind of advanced and most likely won't do that. But for testing cases, to get the rhythm down, you're going to want to reset the presentation. So under Turning Point, right here is called Reset Session. Would I like to save the session? No, this is just test. Now it resets. And now when we go to slideshow again, from beginning, slide advance, now polling now opens again. We have 30 responses. Press slide advance, countdown timer begins. It's simply a visual cue. Press slide advance again, and now we see our results. Slide advance again, correct answer indicator goes up. In its basic form, that is all there is to Turning Point. There is an advanced presentation as well, demo as well for those presentations that are grant funded. If you have a grant funded presentation, it's important to follow the instructions on that because we need to collect evaluations, pre-test and post-tests, and assessments and outcomes. And how to do that and some pointers about that are in the advanced presentation. Thank you very much, and do not hesitate to contact me if you have any questions at the Pennsylvania Academy of Family Physicians. Thanks.